Mostly a work day. I just want to show my page transitions just so you have an idea of what you're going to have at the end. And then I also want to go over the hotkey list. Our hotkey test will be coming up in a couple weeks. So not this week or next week. The hotkey test will be on, oh, too many button clicks. The 12th will be the hotkey test. And then the 19th of February will be our definitions test. Okay, so if you haven't looked at those hotkeys, you don't even know what I'm talking about, make sure you figure that out before the 12th and before the 19th. Also, if you haven't logged into Canvas yet and done your little thing that says, you know, I know, or here's the description of me, make sure you do that too. That way I know you can get into Canvas so that when we do take the hotkey test and the definitions test, you already know how to get into it, okay? All right, so let's zip through this. The way that the hotkey test is set up is all of these letters, V, H, Z, W, C, Y, will be selectable, and then each one of these will be an item. So it'll say select tool, which is the hotkey, and then you'll pick from these, or hand tool, which is the hotkey, or vice versa. I forget how I have it set up, but either way, it's the same exact thing. Same thing for this area. And then same thing for this area, same thing for that area. So all these areas are broken up into chunks, so that way it makes it a little bit easier, so you obviously couldn't get the rotation here mixed up with the rotation there, right? Because they're two different rotation items. Cool. So just to go through these so that you can see them, I'm going to pop After Effects there, and I will put this here, and I will scoot that over, and this over there. Okay. So up here, the V key is selection tool. So if we're selecting stuff, obviously we know we have to be in the selection tool to do that and grab it. The H is the hand tool, which just like Photoshop or Illustrator or InDesign allows you just to kind of move what you're seeing around. So if you're zoomed in and you just want to move what you're seeing, that's where you would use that tool. Z is zoom, so that's your magnifier. Holding Alt zooms out, Control zoom, or nothing zooms in. Usually I'll just use a scroll wheel, but it's important to know that hotkey too in case you accidentally select it and don't know why that's happening. W is rotation. I never use this tool, but some people do. Okay, that's for you to be able to grab this and rotate right in here. I do all my rotations right from the little thing at the bottom, but some people like to do that, so there it is. Camera tools. We haven't touched anything with the camera tools yet. But let me show you really quick what the camera tools are. So I'm going to make a couple solids. I will pick a better color than black because then you can't see anything. It's a better color than black. Let's go. There we go. It's a better color. Okay. So I mentioned before that After Effects has this ability to go into different dimensions. So we have basically the X and Y dimension we've been working with. There is a Z dimension, and that is the only time that the camera tools will work is when you're dealing with the fake 3D. It's not real 3D, it's fake 3D. Okay, it's like fake news, but fake 3D. One laugh off of that. Horrible people. You are all horrible people. There we go. It's not too early. It's 11 o'clock. All right, so I have 3 items here. It looks like they're scaled down and just moved, but they're not. They're all the exact same size. They've just been pushed back into the Z direction, okay? So imagine that we have, you know, a distance, a depth. That's what we're seeing. So I have to create a camera in order to use the camera tools. And I'm just going to make a one-node camera to make it simpler. Okay, so I hit C, and now I'm able to actually like spin around these items. And you can see how these are then separated. We do not get into 3D cameras yet. Eventually we will get into 3D cameras. They're another workhorse type thing that we have to deal with and work through, and there's some pitfalls. So don't worry about them yet, but just know that they're there. So the camera tool allows us to basically do, if you've had a 3D class, all 3 of the main actions that we do, which is tumbling around, moving our camera, and then zooming in and out on our camera. Okay, so that one tool allows us to do all those. If we go here, we can pick individually what we want to do, but typically I just use that main one, which is just C. Okay.
So I know it shows depth, but there's still, if you look on the side, there's still a flag. Can you
Add thickness? No. That's where it's fake, right? So After Effects doesn't have the actual thickness of objects there. That's why one of the options here is that you can actually do a new Cinema 4D file, and what it will do is actually create a Cinema 4D file that links to After Effects, so then you can have 3D objects in there, but it's actually Cinema 4D's 3D objects showing inside After Effects.
Right. This is a 2D software, so
2.5D is what they call it.
I was gonna say, if you have things, you may as well just go to like.
Right, you would go to Cinema.
else,
Yeah. There are some ways to fake more of the 3D stuff. So if we had like a piece of text and we wanted to fake some of the 3D, there is a way to do that. But it all relies on your video card. I think my video card supports it, but the school's ones don't. Okay, so it doesn't do us any good. If you have After Effects, it comes with Cinema 4D Lite, which basically means that you have a slimmed down version of Cinema. You don't get all the bells and whistles, but you get enough to do like some basic shapes and text, and you can add some cloners and stuff like that. Have you used Cinema before? Yeah. Okay, yeah, so you can do some of the basic stuff. What's that? Yep, and the cool thing about it is that the way it links, when you render through After Effects, it renders through Cinema, its parts, and then brings that in After Effects automatically. So you don't need to worry about rendering it here, then bringing it in, and then doing that. It's all linked together. It's incredibly slow, though. We can go over that. Okay, if we get to one of our assignments later on, when we get to it, I can show how we can bring some Cinema stuff in. So that's definitely doable. Okay. So that's the camera tool. We'll get into it more of the camera tool later. The pan behind tool, that's your anchor point, right? So we hit Y and we can move the anchor point around. So that's all those simple stuff. Q is the rectangle tool, which is that shape one. So any of these, they're all Q, so whichever one you were on last, that's Q. And if you just hit Q a bunch of times, it'll just cycle through each one of those. And then you can draw your shape. Never use a star. There's also a pen tool. The pen tool serves two functions. One of them is to draw custom shapes. So if there's a custom shape that I wanted, I can draw a custom shape. The other part of this is it helps me draw masks. Okay, so here is my solid. If I go to the pen tool, I don't know why it's G. Why wouldn't it be P, right? Because everything else is whatever. Yes. So this allows me to basically draw a mask on that shape, basically cutting out a portion of it. Okay. So last class we went over how we can use one layer as a clipping mask basically for another layer. In After Effects, we call it a track mat. We could also just cut stuff out with this. Now the advantage of doing it the other way is that it doesn't move. So if we wanted something to pop up in front of it or pop up behind it or move separately, they move separately. Here, this solid will move with the mask. Okay? So if I had something specifically cut out that I wanted to move, that's where I could use that to just move the whole shape around. Now in this case, it's just a solid. But imagine that I had a video of someone and they had an emblem on their shirt and I wanted to get rid of that emblem. So I could take a still image of that photo, bring that into Photoshop, airbrush out or clone stamp out that emblem, bring that emblem back into After Effects and just cut it out and then just move it along with their shirt. That way the emblem is like clear. Okay? So that's an easy way to just cut a portion of that out. If you watch, what's that show called? Oh my God. I'm not at the right level to be typing. Someone moved the seat and it's just all over the place today. So there was a video I watched a long time ago where this guy shows how he does visual effects for Survivor. And the show was filmed once a week. He would get the footage like on a Sunday, and then he would have until Wednesday to go through and clean up all the stuff. Well, some of the stuff they would do is you want the people watching it to feel like they are out in the wild and all this stuff. So they would have these camera shots where they are showing the people in the boat, and then they would have like villages over on the side. Well, he would have to go through and like airbrush out each village. So he would make like a tree stamp in Photoshop, or a picture of trees, and he would just bring that in After Effects, and he would just cut it out and just drop it right on that spot and track it along with it. He would also do stuff like, there's a snake attached to this pole. Well, the snake's actually like roped up so he can't get away, and then they would have to like airbrush out that rope. It was pretty cool. But that's where you would use like the pen tool kind of stuff, amongst other places. Type tool is Control T, because again, why would we use T? It's the same thing as everything else. right? So there's type. We can change it. Wonderful. The brush tool, you can do clone stamping and brushes inside of After Effects. So just like I would use the regular pen tool to cut stuff out, I could also use my clone stamp tool and brush tool inside here to paint stuff. Let me grab a piece of artwork here. So I have this. Let me drop it down here. It's a wonderful masterpiece right there. Cool. All right, so here's a piece of carpeting, and if I go to my clone stamp, not my clone stamp. Yeah, Control B. All right. I go to my clone stamp, which is right here. It's stupid because these are right next to each other, but they're the same hotkey. I go here, and here is my source, and I could say, you know, that layer, and then I can clone stamp. Yep, that's what I did. I'm on my clone stamper, yes. Alt-click, duplicate current presets, yes. Why aren't you playing nice? Oh, I didn't double-click it. There we go. I thought I double-clicked it, but apparently not. All right. So there is my stuff that I could alt-click, and then I could clone stamp. And I'm clone stamping this stuff way over here. And it's just showing me where it's at, and then it should work. It's the same thing, so I picked a horrible image to use. Let me just grab this, grab that. Okay, there's that. Stamp. That's right. It's just not very big right now. Where is my opacity, flow? Yes. All right, so that should be good. If I get rid of this. Yep, there we go. So now I've clone stamped some of the stuff on top of there, and because this is set to multiply, it's multiplying the result of that. Okay, so you can clone stamp inside here. You can also just use the regular brush and actually just paint on there. And this is where we've already experienced this. When you double click that layer, it brings open this new window. All of that work has to happen inside that new window. Okay, so painting on there. Very rarely do I use the clone stamp in After Effects because I typically would just go to Photoshop to do that. Okay, or I would select a section. Like let's say in this instance I wanted to get rid of this piece here. I would take a section of this carpeting like that. I would go to my pen tool. I would draw a mask around it, and then I would go through, and one of these options is to feather it. I could go through and just feather that out. So if I'm clone stamping something out, that's typically how I would do it in After Effects versus actual clone stamping. It's easier just to grab a chunk and feather it on top of it versus doing that. But some people have different ways to work, so that's why that's there. There's also an eraser. There's a roto brush tool, puppet tool. The puppet tool is pretty neat. We'll get into more of this when we start playing with more stuffs. Let's grab the carpeting down here again. Let's grab our pen tool. Come on, there we go. Shift G. Okay, so there's my item. I'm going to just pre-compose this so that it locks it into a shape. Okay, now here's what the puppet tool does. If you've used it in Photoshop, it's very similar, but this can be animated. So here's my anchor point. So it's basically like this point is going to be anchored down. Let's say that's an elbow, and then let's say that's a wrist. So now I can move that around and create these like organic kind of animation shapes. Okay, and this whole thing can be rigged so that like that is an arm, and then I would have a body, and I would have legs, and I could connect all these things together. Typically, you'll see some of the people who do this, they'll actually use nulls and connect the nulls in order to create the movement for these shapes. Every single one of those puppet points, where are you at? Deform, there we are, has a position. And so we can actually use a null and lock that null to the position of it. That way we can connect other stuff to those. So that way when the hand moves like this or the wrist moves like this, I can have the hand automatically connected to it so that the hand would move also. Okay? And you can see it stretches and whatever else. All right, Puppet tool, very cool. We'll get into that when we get into our Angry Bird assignment. Zooming in the viewer. So you have period and comma. Again, another way to zoom in and out. Some people prefer this way, so it's there. Rulers, just like Photoshop or Illustrator, is Control-R. Just keep in mind that we're dealing with video, so we don't really care how many inches things are. We only care about pixels. Okay, so if we're dealing with 900 pixels or 500 pixels, that's what we're looking at here. Purging all memory, we talked about this too. If After Effects starts to slow down, we may want to purge all of our memory and image caching. So this is the hotkey for purge all memory. Control Alt, oops, wrong button. Oh my gosh, which button am I hitting? Purge. Oh, the numpad one. And then caps lock. A few people have hit this before too. If you have caps lock on, After Effects will not update your stuff. So I'm scaling right now, and you'll see that After Effects isn't doing anything, and then I get this error message at the bottom. Okay, so if you accidentally hit caps lock, After Effects doesn't update your stuff. The reason for that is that your work may go incredibly slow, and you want to just do something. Like I want to just move the position, or I want to take the opacity down. Hit caps lock, wait for everything to stop working, do what you need to do, then you hit caps lock again, and then it's back. Okay. Sometimes when you're rendering, hitting caps lock will also speed up your rendering because it's not calculating each frame's look and rendering. Oops. All right. We've played with some of these already. So anchor point is A, position is P, scale is S, rotation is R, and opacity is T. And then again, all of those are accessible by just opening up these transforms here. Okay? But it's quickest to be able to use those A, S, P, R, T, especially because we can turn them on or turn them off. Because they were just on, they go away. If I click on them again, then they come back. And that way I can focus on just the one. I just want to move position, I just look at position. I just want to move the rotate, I just look at the rotate. Effects properties, we talked about hitting E twice to see expressions. If we have any kind of effect on here, like that, we can hit just E, and it'll open up all the effects that are on it. Okay, so if we need to get to that. If we have any keyframes, so let me set a keyframe here for a position, then go up a bit, put it there, there we go. We can hit the U key, and it'll show us only the stuff that has keyframes. If we hit U twice, it'll show us anything that's been modified. So if I've accidentally moved something, rotated, scaled something, whatever it is, that's where I will see that. Control Y is new solid. Control Shift Y, it's not on there, but Control Shift Y is solid properties. These next ones are ones that people overlook. Moving the in and out point and trimming stuff, okay? Let's make this bigger so we can see it. All right, so here's my animation. I'll make this even bigger. Up a movement. There we go. So there's my animation, nice and big, like that. Okay? If I were to just grab this and move it, that moves the layer down the time slider and moves the keyframes, right? If I click and drag from here, see how the keyframes stay where they're at, but the layer is now cut. Okay? So basically the animation is gone, and then it pops on right at that end. Okay? So one of them is basically trimming. That's what this is doing, is trimming the layer. One of them is moving the layer. Okay? So if I have several layers together that I want to kind of like offset, let me go to this one. I'm just going to copy these and paste them there. Okay. So in this case, I'm going to reset all of these to the beginning so they're all on top of each other. I could grab all of these and just scoot it down and then just do that one at a time. That's perfectly acceptable. Or what I could do is if I have something I need at a certain spot, I can just move my ticker where it needs to be, click on the layer, it's not double click, and then just use the left bracket. And that left bracket just jumps the item right to it, okay? So if I'm moving something, I can just use left brackets to do that. Now that's incredibly handy for being able to put everything back to where it was. If I didn't like how they were offset, I can just grab all the layers, make sure I'm at the beginning, left bracket it, and there they go. If I hit right bracket, let me go to the middle here, you'll see that that does the end of it. Okay, so After Effects is pretty smart about the keys, the hotkeys. So left bracket moves the start of the layer, right bracket will move the end of the layer. The key points do. So the key points move with it, right? So that's what moving it is going to do. Now we can hit U so we can see this. So if I hit the right bracket, you can see the keyframes are gone. If I hit the left bracket, you can see the keyframes move with the end of it, or with the start of it, okay? So this is actually offsetting that layer. So here's my animation, I just want to move it down so it starts here. Correct, not trimming. Now if I hold down Alt and I use left bracket, that trims the layer's start point. And if I use Alt right bracket, that trims the layer's end point, okay? So the reason that this is so important is because, let me open up this thing here. Don't save that because I didn't do anything. This shouldn't be taking that long. I may have broke it. Well, it's linked to Premiere because I'm doing a different video for something. So I don't know if that's why. Wait for the program to respond. All right, let's close the program and reopen it. Are you opening now? Yes, yes. There it goes. Let's try that again, but not that one. Go to the next one on the list. Converted, yes. All right, that one's opening.